don't minimize the space, okay? Like the entire.
Ma'am, so I will open the YouTube link in another complete different.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you please do that? Ma'am, it's coming to the same page.
Wait, wait, something happened.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
it's
see
live.
now
Ma'am, it's live.
yeah, it's live. So what you do is go to OBS.
And yes.
No, no. Wait. Minimize this.
Ma'am, which one?
OBS. Minimize the OBS.
Go to Meet.
Okay. Now listen. But I told you, you need to have this open in separate window. What you do is the tab, that tab.
Greetings everyone. My name is Jashanpreet Kaur and I am a member at Amicus Curiae. And
Ma'am, it's
before
already live
starting the
stream.
session, I would like to
Already
make
live
you
stream.
aware
I
about
can
the
go back.
general guidelines which all the participants are requested to follow during the session.
Just
Please try
drag
to keep your videos on during the session. And it is a request to everyone to keep yourself muted and you can unmute and ask the questions to the speaker during the question and answers round. And if the speaker allows you to ask the questions in between, you can do so, but it is up to the discretion of the speaker.
like
We'll start once Sir
Ma'am, it's
joins.
already live.
Thank you.
it's okay. Now listen. What you do. Go to this Genie page, the real one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now you see you have two tabs open, this Genie tab and the YouTube tab, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Drag the YouTube tab out of this window.
And where to put it, ma'am?
Just drag it out.
It's done, ma'am.
Show me the bar, top one. Okay, good. Okay, it's dragged out. Good. Yeah, that's fine. Now just minimize this YouTube thing. Yeah, now you're all set. Now don't minimize this Genie. Okay, like if you want to open anything, open it, but don't minimize. Don't click minimize on this screen.
Okay, ma'am. I think it's live, ma'am.
Yeah, just on your phone, just check how is the light working. If it's bad, then it's fine. Just text me. Okay.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
So, greetings everyone. Since Sarah has joined, so we would like to begin today's session. So, once again, hi everyone. I am Jashanpreet Kaur and I am a member at Amicus Curiae. I welcome you all to the session of this Presidency Dialogue series. On behalf of Amicus Curiae, I would like to welcome our guest speaker of the day, that is Sir Sanket Kalambe. Before beginning with the session, I would like to give you a brief about the Amicus Curiae and also a brief introduction about our guest speaker of the day. So the amicus curiae, that is TAQ, it is the brainchild of several legal luminaries and eminent personalities across the country and the globe. TAQ is a dream online platform which aims at proliferating legal language and providing an ingenious understanding with cognizance of various fields of law to make sure that legal knowledge and experience penetrates to every nook and corner of the ever growing legal fraternity. Through ambitious and studious legal brains across the country, TAQ aims at providing valuable contribution to the contemporary legal issues along with development in the omnipresent field of law to the masses. We are also registered under the Indian Partnership Act 1932 and Ministry of MSME Government of India. The Amicus Curiae is presently the eighth largest legal website in India, and we are connected to more than 20,000 law students from across 80 plus law schools in India. And talking about our guest speaker of the day, that is Sanket Kalambe sir. He is the founder of That Indian Monk, an organization dedicated to promoting Indic values among youth. He also works as a research analyst at DevSite Intelligence and leads the management or politics team at DIA, that is Domi Inter Astra, a moon-based design project. He pursued his post-graduation in public leadership from Rashtram School and holds a PGD in aviation law from Nalsar. He is a bachelor's in aerospace engineering from MIT University and has won numerous awards for his contributions to space policy, including the first prize globally for his research on creating a lunar settlement on the moon, which was hosted by the Moon Society in 2021. He is also a recipient of the Young Researcher Award 2020 and Shri Aurobindo Leadership Excellence Award at Rishihood University in 2022. Currently, SAR is building a cultural innovation lab that focuses on solving global challenges using Indic principles. He's collaborating with organizations in the cultural space to promote innovation and creativity, bringing his unique perspective to the intersection of technology, design, culture, and public policy. So now, with the permission of our esteemed speaker, I seek permission to begin the session. Over to you, sir. Sir, you are on mute. If you could please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm audible now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot for the humble description. And before we start, I mean, whenever I start a session, I start with an invocation actually. So I'll just ask you to maybe fold your hands or just close your eyes and sit, and I'll just recite a small shloka or mantra because we're dealing with Indian concept of leadership. I thought let's start it in Indian way. An invocation is something that evokes a thought, it evokes a spark within you whenever you start a conversation, a discussion, or a dialogue. And this was always followed in our traditions. Somewhere deep down, we have lost that tradition, but we also start with certain invocations by remaining silent, or sometimes by remaining creating a thought or something. We'll start with a small mantra, and this small mantra is all about taking us from darkness to awareness. So I'll just recite it. ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Yeah. So this mantra basically means take us from untruth to truth, dark to lightness, and it has direct correlation with take us from unawareness to the awareness stage. When we talk about leadership, the first aspect that we have to deal with is becoming aware. And a lot of us, we deal with challenges around us. We have a lot of situations that are around us, but we directly jump into the problems that are posed to us. But half of, I won't call it half, I won't put the numbers into it. Many of us basically, if we are posed with a challenge, a situation, we directly jump into it irrespective of knowing whether we are capable of doing it or we resonate to the problem that is posed to us. So today's session, can I share my screen? Yeah, wait.
Yes, sir, sure, you can share.
Yeah. So I've divided it into two parts. Usually I don't want to go and get into presentation mode, but I thought let's have some slides over there and I'll also have a conversation with you guys. So it will be in dual mode, right? So Indian concept of leadership. Now the topic which was given to me, and the first thought that came to me when I read the topic was, the first thought that occurred to me was a tree. When we talk about leadership, when we talk about Indian concept of leadership, especially tree is the best symbol. I thought I could present this topic to you all. Why tree? Because tree has some roots, tree has a trunk, tree has leaves, tree has branches. And when we deal in Indian ethos, I thought of a vriksha metaphor. So with this metaphor, I thought let's explain this concept to you all. And when we talk about leadership, the first thought that occurs to us, okay, we want to lead, we want to shape some narratives, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to create some thought and let people follow it. These are some narratives which are there. But when we deal in Indian perspective, it has more than just psychological interactions or relation building or strategies or the surface level things. It goes back to the roots, and roots are the basis of anything that we deal in India. And when I talk about India, I'm not confining it to a particular religion or a region or a linguistic group or something. No, it relates to almost entire society as India, Bharat we call it. So when we look at this tree, there are roots to this tree. Roots give us that rootedness, essence of rootedness, and they are the foundation of traditional values and principles. Now, this topic, when it was given, there was this thing blending traditional ethos with modern society that we are living in. So I thought this can be a good example because as Indian, we are ecologically very connected to the surrounding that is there, which builds a connection with even the connections that we have with our friends and everything. We all mimic it from the ecological diversity that is around us, how plants are connected to each other, how we are connected to the surrounding. So it plays an important role. So rootedness, when we talk about it, it relates to foundation of traditional values and principles that provide strength and stability to the tree. If we look at foundation of a home, if there is no, we first dig a hole. If you see that, instead of building a 10-floor building immediately on a land which is available to us, we first dig some hole, and that hole is as bigger. I mean, in Hindi we say कि जितना बड़ा हमें बनाना उतना बड़ा वो गड्ढा होगा. I hope you understand Hindi there. So uh, the foundation is very much important when we talk about leadership. So tree has roots, and roots are is the best way to understand these foundations. Now, what are these traditional values? We'll look upon it later. Then we talk about the trunk. Trunk adds to stability and strength. Initially, when that plant is very small, that trunk in itself sounds like a branch, very tiny. It adapts to the surrounding, but still it remains still. What keeps it still? In India, the first grounding principle we can say we are all rooted to is dharma. Dharma is, there are misconceptions that it correlates to religion. No, it doesn't. Religion is a way of dharma, but it is not dharma. Dharma is like a universal law, which governs all the aspects of life. If I tell you in simple words, there is a cosmic order which universe follows. I hope you all agree. I can't see anyone here. I think I should not have started presentation, but I wanted to see all of you. I can only see a screen, but I hope you all agree to that point that there is a universal order along which the solar system works. We see that the Earth revolves around the sun, and the solar system also revolves around something. We call it. It revolves in the Milky Way galaxy, and the galaxy also revolves around something. So there's an order which is cyclic in nature. We call it Rita in Indic terminologies. Will not go there, but there's Rita, the guiding principle, which is universal. And then Dharma is a subset of Rita. All the ecological principles that we see. Why do we see that? Even if we keep a home stranded, we see suddenly you'll see some trees are naturally growing across it. Why is it happening? Who's controlling that? Now, there are different belief systems. People call it God is doing it. Some people call it a different virtue, different worldviews are there. ultimately it's all about, if I confine it, it's a dharma, it's a duty, it's a duty of the cosmos to, thrive, to occur in that way. So there is a dharma, and the principal ethos of India, the Bharat that we call, is that it is rooted in dharma. And leaders are those who keeps a check. There's a universal order, the cosmic order, and there's an order created by us humans. We have a systematic order that we live in. Tomorrow, if I marry someone, so I might have a different order. Tomorrow, if I go to a college, there's a different order. We create a new political party. It has a different. So everything that we create in the society has an implication in and around the system. So we shape our new, dharmas, collective dharma, the swadharma we call it, individual dharmas, ensuring that collective dharma that we, practice is in tune with the cosmic dharma, the cosmic order. The one who ensures that order is the leader. And when we talk about stability and strength, trunk is that part which ensures that the branches of the trees are following that dharma, which is why we see the branches might grow here and there, but the trunk remains still and stiff. That is what determines the stability of a tree. The branches. We are dealing with, new interventions, innovative ideas, technological ideas, with cultural innovations. There are global standards are keeping they keep changing. So I thought their, branches are the best way to determine that segment, because branches are not like trunks. They're not stiff. They keep adapting to the situation. Like when we go back to 2000 years ago, the situation was very different. What people used to study and now what people study, they are two different things. There was no internet, so their way of dealing things was very different than the way we deal it right now. So branches determine, modern ethos is determined by the branches, and it includes innovation, collaboration, global awareness, and they're flexible and adaptable. And then comes the leaves. Now leaves that are visible, but they keep on changing. We see some leaves on a plant, and in a particular season they shed down. In a similar way, if plants have a leaf, in a similar way, there are strategies which are created by the governments, the any call it government or any kind of leadership, an organizational leadership or anything. The leaves is a very great metaphor to understand that, because they keep evolving with time, evolving with seasons. We see spring season, they'll sprout. We see autumn, they'll shed down. So it works like that. In different scenarios, different strategies and solutions will come up. And then fruits, which are not visible here. I will not compare it with the outcomes are not visible, but there are outcomes. And I didn't rate the outcomes as positive outcomes or negative, because outcomes can be anything. Fruits can be tasty, fruits can be sour, or anything. We don't know.
Sir, sorry to disturb you in between, but when you speak, there is a little disturbance from the background.
Is it? Like, what is the disturbance? Like, is it some
Now
noise?
it's clear, sir. Your voice was a little bit breaking. I guess maybe from the headphone wire or something. Now it's clear.
Okay, I'll try removing the headphone and try it again. Okay,
Yes,
just
sir,
let
sure.
me know, is my voice clear or not.
All right, sir.
Is it audible?
Yes, sir, it's audible and clear.
Better than before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think there was some distortion because of the headphone. So, should I repeat this, or was it fine?
It was
I'll
fine,
go
sir.
give a
You can
quick
confirm.
glance if you want.
You can give a quick recap for the audience if it was not clear to someone.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So, I started with rootedness. The roots determine the fundamental, traditional values which exist in our ecosystem, the Indian ecosystem that we are talking about. The second is the trunk, the stability and the strength part. Uh, I'll I'll give a brief again. I spoke about dharma here. Like, dharma correlates, doesn't co. Dharma is not religion per se. Religion correlates to dharma, but dharma is even grand idea which emerges from the idea of rita. Rita is a cosmic order. The universe has its own law, and dharma is a subset of that law. A leader is that a leader is someone who ensures that there's an order in the society. Dharma is that order.
So we have our own, we create some certain type of chaos in the society, maybe through protest, maybe do something. So that chaos or anything, a leader is one who ensures that this chaos is ordered and the order is in tune with the order of universe, the cosmic order. That is what dharma is. And trunk plays that role. Trunk ensures that there is stability and strength all around the tree. That is how we can inculcate the idea of leadership as well. Then there are branches. Branches are adaptive in nature. You might have seen that sometimes the branches are in particular directions, sometimes they're falling off in certain directions. So we see innovations around us, we see a lot of technological intervention, we see different kind of intervention, disruptions happening around us. Like recently AI disruption has happened. So the flexibility and adaptability is one of the core strength of ensuring that this particular identity is a leader. If there's no adaptability or if there is no flexibility in the ethos, there'll be challenges. Like if we are stiff like the trunk, branches should never be stiff. But if they are stiff, you'll see that there will be a disorder, because branches are adapting to because they are the reason why the tree is thriving. They are creating certain gaps there so that the air can flow. There are a lot of different variants. They are adapting to the sunlight as well. So the receptivity of a tree and everything is determined by its branches, the direction in which they are growing. So the direction of how we as nation are growing depends on our adaptability and flexibility to the global standards, to the situations that are occurring around us. Like the recent intervention of AI, as I've mentioned, chat gpt has occurred, there are generative AI, a lot of different things are coming. So how are we adaptable to it, or are we resisting to it? That will determine a lot of things. So the ethos is set by the metaphor of branches. Leaves tells us that these are the determinant factors, like strategies and solutions that we create for a particular problem or something. So they keep on changing and changing with season. I tried to mention, like in season, in autumn season, we'll see that trees are shut. They shed, and in spring season they're sprouting. In a similar way, strategies and solution keep on changing, keep on, sometimes they are very good, sometimes they're not. So they keep on changing with time. And then the fruits are the outcomes. They may be positive, they may be negative. So this is the vriksha metaphor I thought I should start the discussion with. And then I wanted to jump to the next thing. Since we are dealing with domestic challenges and global challenges as well, so I've collectively posed them as challenges in itself. But before posing with the challenges, I wanted that we all should reflect upon what is leadership, the idea of leadership. Do we identify leadership as a action? Do we identify leadership as a skill? Do we identify leadership as a system? Or what do we see leadership as? So based on our lenses, the solutions are also, channelized compartmentalized according to that. If we see it as a system, we see that there's a political leadership, a different compartment, economic leadership, there's a organizational leadership. So there are different leadership. When we deal it in Indian ethos, it should be holistic. It should be holistic in such a way that we don't segmentize. Okay, so he's a political leader, so his focus should be towards politics. Oh, he's a leader in sustainability domain, let his focus be towards environmental. Now I was told that there are a lot of policy enthusiasts as well here, and legal students. So I feel that we are not living in that world where your problems are only related to the law and order of the society. It goes beyond that. You might also be interested to know what is the environmental situation around us, what is the political situation around us, and what is happening in the economic at the economic level. So these are some concerns, because now we are dealing in a world which is more holistic in approach. Even if we avoid that, this is happening. But at the problem solving level, are we dealing it in a similar way, or are we still in compartmentalized way? So we'll jump to the next thing. I wanted to start with this concept of micro and macro. The idea of micro and macro, and why did I place it here? When we talk about grand challenges, we always end up seeing the macro issues that are around us. We see, oh, there's a war going on in Russia and Ukraine. We always see, okay, there's an economic crisis, there are layoffs, there are a lot of situations happening. territorial issues, and since we are dealing at G20, we are dealing at various economic issues. There are micro issues which are happening around us, and we often neglect them. It could be a problem in your society. We think, oh, why does the problem in a society has to do something with a global grand challenge? It might be connected. We don't know, right? But it is connected. The plastic that we use at our homes, it is creating problem at the macro level. There are a lot of examples. I wish I wanted to put it here in presentation, but due to time constraint, I thought it will be a huge, but I will just describe it orally. So these are the issues, the micro and macro that we deal in. But before we understand, I'm sorry, there are okay. Before we understand what are micro macro, I want you to see this line here, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande, which is taken from Yajurveda. What does it tells you? It tells Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande, the micro and the macro. What is in a micro is also in a macro level. Or you can say macro is a reflection of micro. Or you can say macro is a projection of micro. I have shown it as a projection in the diagram. And when I talk about micro and macro, let us not see it at society or global level. Let us take it even 2 steps back, which is let us see at inner level. When we talk about leadership, we always see, okay, what should I solve? What should I do? But when we talk about leadership, let us, analyze ourselves first, individual. Are we leader? Are we are we capable of being self leaders? Or are problems around us, taking us, are we making some compulsive decisions in our life? Or are we relying to those thought patterns or emotional disorders that are around us? So we need to look at ourselves first when we talk about leadership. And Indian concept of leadership deals with that concept, that we first deal with ourselves and then deal with the outer world. Hence, I thought micro and macro can be a very good example to talk about that. First, we deal with the micros. And when we talk about micros, let's deal with the micros of self. The micros that you're seeing here could belong to individuals, be it family, organization, and then this could be collective in nature. Yeah, the macros could be collective in nature. Like the micros could be, simple, a problem of a society. There could be a problem of, water leakage in the society or sanitation issue. There could be issue of garbage, whatever. These are micro issues that we deal with. And there are some there are some organizations which deals with them. The question is, are they doing it efficiently? If they are not, what are the implications they are having in the society? We should be analyzing it, at least at the individual level, the things that we use on a daily basis. We should be considering each other as responsible citizens to check what are we doing, in the society, what are we contributing. So micro plays the role there. And then the macro issues are like, collective. Like we are coming together to solve a very grand challenge, grand problem. Like the pandemic issue, it was a grand problem. It was a macro issue where not just India, but the entire community of, the nations, they came together to solve that grand challenge. So that was a macro issue. And then there is one important thing that we should focus on, that what is the impact of micro and macro around us. Sometimes the micros that we see, the plastics, have a macro impact in the society. Even the equipments that we use, they release CFC or carbon dioxide. It has problem. It leads to depletion of ozone layer. So these are the macro impacts that we see. Even when we talk about electricity, when it was created, we spoke about coals. We spoke about using coals to produce thermal electricity. But now we can see the impact. We have to shift to new ways of generating electricity. We are shifting to solar or hydro-powered electricity. So they were micro at that time, but they are creating macro problems. They became macro later, but initially they were some micro things. So we should develop this lens of micro and macro when we deal with any situation, especially if we are into policy making. So the presentation starts from this here, to be honest. The inner core of leadership is to understand worldviews. Now, when I spoke about micro, or when I spoke about inner self, when we talk about leadership, the first thing we should all be focusing on is what is that inner core of leadership that shapes you to become an effective leader, or that shapes an effective leadership, that shapes an effective example for leadership in the society. It starts with understanding worldviews. If you're an individual, you should be aware of what are the worldviews that are shaped around you, what are the narratives that are shaped. There could be an ideological worldview. There are hundreds of worldviews, to be honest, but these are some four common ones. There are a few more worldviews which I thought I should list, but these are four common ones which cover almost the major ones. So there are ideological worldviews which are based on values and ideals. So I could belong to a particular ideology, or you could have a particular ideology, and we should understand where do we come from. As a leader, we should remain, neutral. To be honest, even though I have my biases, like for example, I don't know what are your worldviews here. Someone might have different religious worldview, someone might have different ideological worldview, anything. But I have to be neutral here to ensure that I cover major aspects so that most of the audiences are covered here. That should be my narrative. Now I cannot if there are hundreds of people attending today's session, now even if I try my best, I cannot cover everything to satisfy all the narratives of these 100 people. Somewhere 10 to 15 people or 20, 30 people will still be left behind. So my aim should always be that I cover maximum I cover the interest of maximum people. And that's how our global leadership works as well, or call it Indian leadership, that we try to focus on creating solutions such that they create impact for maximum amount of people, because there will be set of audiences, set of groups which may not be satisfied with the solutions that are given to us. So when we deal with any policy or anything, we need to start with one thing, which is understanding the worldviews. Where do we come from? First, we need to see about ourselves. Where do we come from? What are the biases we carry? Are we biased in religious perspectives? Like, what are our religious biases? Do I come from a Hindu ideology? Religious point of view? Do I come from a Christianity point of view? We need to understand this, because why I'm focusing here, because the time span that we have spent, maybe I think 20 to 25 years is the age group which I was told. So the 20 to 25 years that you might have spent in your life, there were a lot of narratives that were shaped around you, which comes from your home, which comes from your society, which comes from maybe mosque, temple, churches, or anything. That is where a religious ideology, the worldviews are shaped. They could be good, they could be bad. It is totally open. But what I'm trying to tell here is our narratives are shaped like that. Our worldviews are shaped like that. Then we go to philosophical worldviews, and they can vary. It could be pluralism, it could be materialism, it could be Marxism, etc. It could be anything. And it depends upon an individual. What are they learning? How are they evolving in the society? How do they see the societal structure? There are people who are interested to follow a certain set of, interested to follow a certain set of beliefs. Someone might be a Marxist, someone might be someone who comes from a different perspective. It could be anything. And what are the worldviews we are bringing in when we are dealing a particular problem or a situation is very important here. And then the attitudinal, like we are optimistic about it. Let's say I'm posing a situation, someone might be a pessimist. Immediately right after seeing this particular thing, they might show pessimism and say, oh, this won't work. But there might be a set of group which say, oh, this will work. We need to see what is that worldview we carry. Once we understand our side of worldviews, we need to look outside now. That is the macro, that is the outside. And we need to check what are the worldviews of this world that we are living in. Are they compare with this four frameworks that are posed in front of you. What are their philosophical worldviews? If I'm posing this particular narrative, will it be acceptable to that person or not? If they are not acceptable, what can be done to ensure that both of them practice or adapt to it harmoniously? Because what happens is, in order to ensure that certain law and order has to be established, sometimes we practice brute force, or we don't care about ethics and laws. We just put it down on ground. So harmony is very important to ensure that certain set of policies are implemented well. That is something that has to be followed. So worldviews play an important role here. And when we know the worldviews, we should be aware of what are the lenses we carry. Even if I carry a worldview of being a Hindu, I might have multiple lenses to analyze particular situation. In Hindu itself, there are 6 school of thoughts. Now the people of 21st century may not be aware of what are these school of thoughts, and we won't get into the philosophical part of it. But someone might be into yoga, someone might be interested into bhakti, someone might be a karma yogi, someone might be an atheist, someone might follow Samkhya principle. It could be anything. The root element of it is same, but the philosophical way of looking at things is different. So what are the lenses we carry to analyze? So in generic terms, in today's world, these are some common lenses that we see. If there is a problem, we naturally put a political lens. I hope you guys can relate with this, right? So if there's a problem in the society, we put a political lens to it, and we know there are common directions to it. There's a left, there is a right, there is center, and there are new more wings that are coming up. So there is this political approach that we have, and then there is an economical lens as well. There are a lot of people who are who have started to look at these things in economical perspectives. What are the impacts it might have in our economy? If I do this, will it enhance our economy or not? Suddenly there was a time that people didn't much bothered about what are the economical implications of the things that we do, but now suddenly there's a wave that we do care about it. We do care about economic crisis because I don't know, it might be the age factor, because the times that we grew up and the times that we are living in, we are the most aware kind of youths. I mean, we are aware, politically aware, socially aware. So yes, we are trying to analyze situations with economic lens as well. There is social lens to it. Socially, someone might be a feminist, someone might be a conservative. Well, it could be anything. But this dynamics has also emerged. And if there's a problem, again, I'm talking about problems directly. If there's a problem, we try to see it through different we actually have this habit of seeing it through different lenses. Even if we see a movie, right, we place a narrative. Okay, this particular movie depicts this particular narrative, it comes from this particular lens. Like uh, anything. Okay, this movie was not portraying good things about this particular community, or this movie was trying to depict or this movie was posing harm to certain set of audiences. So this social lens is also starting to generate naturally, and it is because of the evolutionary process that has happened post independence. A lot of interventions were made, so this has led to generate a new social lens that we are living in, and it keeps on evolving with time, and the speed of evolution has totally increased. The speed of evolution back then was totally slow. Like, you can see the generational gap. I think you guys can relate that 10 to 15 years of generational gap used to be there, and then there was a time when it was 5 to 6 years. Now you see there is a generational gap for 1 to 2 years as well, because some people, they are too they're too with the disruption of technology, they're too advanced in their approach that they catch it up. And some people, they are, I won't tell that they are slow in such a way, but they are satisfied with the way things are moving, so they'll catch it up later. But what ideologies or what worldviews they believe in, and what ideologies, what worldviews this person who is more advanced believe in, they are very different, even though they come from the same time range, I can say, like 2020s. But still we'll see a lot of differences in it won't be I won't call it different generations, but still there's a huge gap. Then there is technological lens as well. What are the technological implications? And there is ecological lens. Now, I wanted to emphasize ecological lens in a different way, but I thought then I'll have to also describe all of this. It would have been time consuming, so I will describe it in a short way. If I ask you one simple question of development, and I want an answer from you guys, anyone of you can answer. What is the idea of development that you guys have? Can anyone answer?
So may I?
Yeah. Please, you go on, because I can't see anyone here. So yeah, I'll just hear.
Hello, sir. This is Ms. Debupriya Tiwari, this side.
Okay.
Sir, I would like to say development is a way of stability or sustainable growth of the society, sir.
Very good.
Development cannot be indulged in a personal basis.
Right. True. Definitely. And when I talk about idea of development, now that was a definition. When we talk about idea of development, like what, if I ask you, what is a developed society? What is the picture that is coming in front of you?
Can I try?
Yeah, please.
For me, a developed society is one where everyone has equal set of opportunities, equal rights. Like, there's no levels of powers. Everyone is at par. They know there's equality for me. If it's developed, there's equality. Everyone knows what they want to do. They are not seeking for opportunities. They are at their best.
Right. Great. So this is development at value level, like ethical level, we can say, or we're dealing. When we talk about development at tangible level, most of us have this lens of viewing development as we live in a very in such a society where there are big buildings, where there are big industries, and we see a lot of new interventions, the metros, the new technological developments as well, which is not wrong. It is important because industries are important to ensure there is efficiency in the system, and we cannot neglect that. And because of technology and industries, I'm able to have a conversation with you. Otherwise, I'll have to walk and visit you guys and then have a conversation, which would take ages because we won't even have cars to reach there or flights or anything. Now, that is one idea of development, but it is not the holistic idea. The holistic idea of development, I believe, should, of course, consist of all the components: the political, economical, social, and like you have said about moral and ethical as well, the technological as well. But there should be an ecological lens as well, which has to be introduced. When we talk about development, we take away all the forest and we start building, new buildings or things like that, and we call it development. But is it development? When we look or when we project that we are living in 2050 or 40, imagine a world where there are no trees. Imagine a world when the forest land is covered with industries or real estates. How will it look like? Like, does anyone wants to narrate that story, or I'll take it forward? Can you visualize that scene, like I mean, the idea of development which I have painted right now, with full of industries and everything, and there's no ecological lens towards it. How will you see it?
Living in gas chambers.
Well,
Sir,
good.
it would be a
So
negative growth, like it would not be a positive
exactly,
growth.
exactly. So the thing is, you know, ecology, and when we talk about India's Indian concept, we are deeply connected with our natural resources, the surrounding, the environment. There's an element of prakriti that plays an important role in shaping the connections that we have. Even our relationships, are inspired with how environmental relationships are shaped. And suddenly, when that ecosystem is whitewashed, the new generation won't even have set of examples to even look upon. So it is a civilizational issue, which people don't address it in that way. We see it only an environmental issue, but it is a civilizational issue that we should be talking about. So when we look at it through ecological lens, the idea of development should also consist of nurturing of this environmental things that are around us. Call it trees, call it forest, anything. So can we have, a balanced society? That is the question that we should be asking. Like, can we have a balanced society around us? That yes, we also need industries, but we also need an equitable distribution of industries and the forest land which is there, so that both of them coexist. Because we cannot stop industries. Like, even if we tell, okay, we don't want this, we don't see a positive growth or positive projection, but we cannot say we don't want industries. We do want it. Only then we are, moving forward in our approaches. That is what the modernist approach is. The material growth that we talk about, we cannot neglect. When we talk about the ethos of India, we cannot simply talk about the spiritual growth or the ecological growth or, very value based system. We cannot do that. We also have to create something at materialistic level. So ecological lens plays a very important role, and I feel that one of the takeaways from this today's session should be that we start analyzing our situations with this lens, that at least we develop it. There are various aspects to, know these things. I mean, there are subjects of biomimicry, how we can mimic certain things from bio-inspired designs and things like that. We should be analyzing those things, but for now the important is to have an idea, at least, that the idea of development is fractured, and how can we make it more interconnected and holistic. It depends on interconnections of these lenses that we have, and we cannot isolate these lenses and see, okay, I'm just a political person, so I'll only analyze it through that lens. We have to move beyond and see it through different lenses as well. Only then we will develop one character within us, that is empathy. Empathy between me and you will only work if I understand, okay, this set of audiences understands policy dynamics or legal dynamics. I'll have to speak in their languages. If I start speaking in a different terminology, let's say I read Bhagavad Gita here and I start speaking any shloka of Bhagavad Gita in Bhakti Yoga something, maybe some of you understand it, some of you will not even relate what is he speaking. So I need to understand your lens and everything. Of course, this is the first interaction that we are having and the only interaction, but still I'm trying to be generalized here. Yeah. So when we analyze any situation, our lenses play an important role. Like first, we should be aware of what are the worldviews that we carry and what are the lenses that we carry. So this plays an important role in problem solving, be it a global problem, be it a local problem, or be it a problem for self. And I'll tell all of you, start with self. Don't jump into what is happening around you. Start with self. You'll develop one thing. What are the approaches that you're deal with yourself? Just project it at the macro level. These approaches will help you to solve what is happening around you, and it happens. That is how the Indian ethos have evolved. I wanted to put three leaders here, which I admire a lot. There are a lot of leaders, the worldviews which I shape. I mean, lot of my worldviews come from these leaders. One is Adi Shankaracharya, second is Lokmanya Tilak, and third is Sri Aurobindo. There are many more leaders I admire a lot, but why these three people? Because when I talk about Adi Shankaracharya, the first thought that comes to me is that, okay, he's a traditional monk or something like that. It comes. No, he was not. Let's go back to the time when Adi Shankaracharya lived. He lived like 2000 years ago. When we go back to that scenario, there was a challenge in front of him. The Vedas was highly followed, but not during his times. There were Vedic texts, and there was influx of Buddhism. There was influx of different various sects among India, like Veerashaiva. There were many more. So Adi Shankaracharya saw one thing, that okay, we have different I'll call it worldviews for now, and he thought we have a very rich, I'll call it text for now, not the universal principle, or call it universal principles. So we have very rich universal principles with us. Why are we not following them? It is so rich that it actually respects the diversity in itself, because we are too oriented towards practicing one single thing. We had diversity, but it was limited to a particular community, and it was not too open. So Shankaracharya debated with different dharmacharyas, or call it the leaders of different religious groups, and he challenged their ways and worldviews or lenses, everything. That was a modernist approach. People may question it in today's age. Okay, he was a traditional, but he was not. He was a modernist. He also had material aspect. I mean, he also gave a material direction to it. He built 4 mathas, which we known as Shankaracharya mathas. So they are located in 4 different points of India. It's a very good case study to understand that he actually kept them in 4 different geographical areas, which actually tells us these are the extremes of India: north, east, west, and south. So of course there are lands beyond that as well, but he had that idea and he traveled just by walking. His ability, the tarka is the logic, the nyaya, he understood law and order very nicely in such a way that he wrote a lot of commentaries on a lot of different aspects. So Shankaracharya is one of the leaders that has shaped a new philosophical system for us, which is Advaita Vedanta, and a lot of new traditions have emerged from that particular philosophical system. So he questioned the old narratives, he shaped a new narrative. Then there was Lokmanya Tilak. And Lokmanya Tilak and Sri Aurobindo, they came from almost the same era. Lokmanya Tilak, we call him as a father of Indian independence movement, in such a way that at that time Bhakti movement was, I won't call it peak, but yeah, people were into Bhakti mode, and Bhagavad Gita was pursued in that way. Lokmanya Tilak, wrote a framework that, okay, why just keep Bhagavad Gita at, just following, at Bhakti level? Why not use Bhagavad Gita and bring it as a Karma Yoga model? And let us act to, give freedom to our country using this model. So he created Karma Yogis during his time. He wrote a framework from Bhagavad Gita, and he created Karma Yogis. In a similar way, Sri Aurobindo. Now, Sri Aurobindo was also a nationalist leader in such a way, but what he did was he was a spiritual leader. He later became a spiritual leader as well. Now, when I call spirituality, people might have said, okay, he might have preached non-violence. No, he actually stated that non-violence, I mean, violence is important in such a way. If we have to follow dharma, we might have to get into that mode where we, defend our society. We don't attack, we defend. Violence for defense is what he, promoted in a way. So Sri Aurobindo is one of the great examples who followed spirituality, who kept spirituality at his basis and used spirituality as a tool to ensure that we get freedom from the British rule. So these are some three, leaders who I found, I mean, I resonate to all these leaders. So there could be anyone. You might follow someone else. It is totally fine. But we should have these lenses when we deal with any problems that are around us. We should have these lenses with us. We should have their worldviews with us. And when we talk about blending traditional approaches with the modern ethos, this is what we talk about. What are the traditional ethos? What are the traditional belief and values which existed during those times? Which I can say during those times they were modernist. I won't call them as traditional. They might be traditional now, but they were not traditional. And in fact, I'll tell you, their values are still modern in nature. And if you, if you apply them, and then if you change your lens of analyzing a situation, your definitions will change as well. What I see with a political lens, if I change the lens to economical, the dynamics will look different. So it has always been there. So I placed it on a very later stage, Panchakosha model. I was not going to put it, but I wanted to place it because I want to do a certain activity with you. And we'll come to it in a later part, the activity. But I want to explain you in a very simple note. Panchakosha model is something which is very important. It comes from Taittiriya Upanishad. Now, Panchakosha model tells us that we are surrounded by layers. And what are these layers? It could be physical layer, it could be energy layer, it could be spiritual, emotional layer, it could be, the layer of mind that we say, and then these are the 5 layers. So the activity is something that I'll tell you later, but for now, it is important to understand that when we talk about leadership or when we talk about situations in our country, if we analyze it with Panchakosha, it becomes quite easy to understand. If I pick up an individual deals with physical ailments, physical problems, or physical situations. Now that comes under Annamaya Kosha, the physical sheet. And then there's an external layer of Pranamaya Kosha, which is an energy body, we call it, energy layer, where all your, subtle forces, like vital forces, they exist. Sometimes, you go to work, and when you come back from your work, when you come back to your home, you might feel, oh, I'm feeling very, dizzy. I want to sleep because I'm tired or something. What is that what is it that creates that tiredness? It is that vital force. If you're dealing with some positive things, like for example, if you love a movie, and if you go and watch a movie, and when you come back, you may not feel tired because you love that movie, and suddenly the vital force is, vibrating, pulsating at a very higher frequency. So you'll feel good, you'll feel energized. But let's say if I give you such a work, which might be tiring, you'll come back and you want to sleep, and this is the situation which might occur. So that is Pranamaya Kosha that deals with it. There is Manomaya Kosha, where all your emotions and everything that lies. So Manomaya Kosha deals with it. And then comes Vijnanmaya Kosha, where all your intellect and everything. And then Anandmaya Kosha, which is bliss. So what are these koshas exactly? Now I'm talking with you. That is my physical self that is talking. But there are subtle forces which are acting as well. My mind is connected to your mind, which is why I'm able to connect with you. If I'm not connecting with you, that means we are vibrating at different frequencies. That is how we are connected. There's Manomaya Kosha, the emotional layer that is surrounding us. If someone is abusing me right now, is my physical self getting harmed, or is my emotional self getting harmed? We need to check that. If we understand this lens, if we understand it through this lens, what will happen? We'll start acknowledging the problem as it is. What happens usually is, if I give an example of abuse, simple. If someone is trying to mock me, create a sarcasm over me, I might get hurt. But who is that I? If I reflect to that I, is it my physical self that is getting harmed here? Is it my mental self which is getting harmed here? Is it my emotional self that is getting harmed here? Or it is my energy self that is getting harmed here? If we analyze it through this lens, or if we analyze it like this, you will naturally detach yourself from the problem, because now you know that this problem that exists. I think there is some noise over here. Just give me one minute. 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute, okay?
Yes, sir, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Is my slide visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. And I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir, you're clearly audible.
If there are any doubts with you, please note it down. We'll have a discussion. Okay. So I just want to say something that, yeah, if someone is mocking me or something, so is my physical self getting, is my physical self getting harmed here, or my mental or my emotional? The moment I say, okay, my emotional self is affected here, my body and my mind will actually remain stable, and they will help to deal with that problem at emotional level. When we analyze this thing, we naturally detach ourselves from the problem, and we can start rationalizing that problem and create solutions for it. So usually what happens is we have intermixed everything into a single thing, that where we need to apply our rational mind, we apply our emotional mind and deal with it. And when we talk about leadership, as a leader, Panchakosha plays an important role to analyze something. Maybe you're leading in a team, so to deal with your friends, your colleagues, you need to understand, is it a psychological issue that person is facing? Let me deal with it in that way. Because what happens sometimes, that person may be physically fit, maybe psychologically mental health is good, everything is good, but still that person is very low. I have a lot of friends like that, who appear very bright, everything, but I've often seen them very low. And initially I could not address. I used to often get impulsive on them. What is the problem? I cannot acknowledge it. But then when I'm actually started conversation and understanding these frameworks, I saw that it was an emotional disconnect they had with me or with the surroundings that was around them. So the first thing I tried to do was build an empathy, build that connection with them, an emotional connection, to deal with it. What could be an emotional connection? That is very personal, but you can acknowledge in that way. When we are dealing with the challenges that are around us and using the Panchakosha framework, the physical implications of any challenge. I'll put it in the next slide. Can we apply Panchakosha framework to analyze the problem around us? And this can be an activity for you, which you guys can do it at your whenever you guys are free. That is totally fine. Pick up a problem around you. Pick up social media, for example. I'm giving an example. Facebook. What are the physical implications of Facebook? What are the mental implications of Facebook? What are the emotional implications of Facebook? What are the energetical implications of Facebook? Physical implications could be I'm spending my time on a phone, or Facebook was very popular during our times. Let's use Instagram for now. So Instagram, I'm scrolling too many reels and everything. Now I'm physically present on over that phone and analyzing it. So my time and everything, time factor, location factor, are getting affected. Maybe my posture is getting affected. I'm just giving a very small example. You can pick up any example that is around you and use this framework to analyze a problem that is around you. What are the what are the mental implications? There could be mental health issues which might arise, or there are insecurities that we see, mental insecurities, psychological issues that we see because of over scrolling or real something. Emotional insecurities, you see a lot of our friends, okay, he's getting so many likes. Sorry, is there a question? Okay, I think there's a noise. Anyway, so when we talk about emotional implication, what are the emotional insecurities this app is giving us? Like I might see my friend is getting too many likes on his post. Why can't I get too many likes? Things like that. So at energy level or connection level, we can see, okay, we feel connected, we feel disconnected. One thing is we feel connected to each other. A friend of mine is sitting in Boston and I'm sitting here in Nagpur. We are connected just through this device that we have. So this is an energetic implication. We are connected, we feel connected. But again, if that person leaves me on scene, you know the implication of it. Why did he leave me on scene? That creates a disconnect and again leads to instability. So insecurity. So when we understand Panchakosha in different levels, and because of time constraints, I cannot tell you step-by-step methodologies, but I was trying to tell you how is it applicable. And when we deal with the grand narratives that are around us, Panchakosha plays an important role to understand at least, and also to see the implications of it. After this, when we talk about India, because we spoke about lenses, we spoke about worldviews, we also gave a tree metaphor and different models or lenses to analyze. So, what are the narratives that shape India? It depends on you. What is the narrative you want to carry? And that is a question I will ask you in the end for reflection purpose. But still, here, is it poverty? Do you want to see, because we are dealing in G20 forum right now? Would you prefer that India should be narrated with the level of poverty it carries, or something, a positive narrative should be shaped? And it depends on us. It's not that we create that narrative. It is a journey for us to ensure that each one of those who are lying below poverty line should be, should, I mean, some measures should be taken in such a way that they go beyond that poverty line, so that each one of us are I mean, living in a well-established society. We don't call, okay, he's too poor, he's too rich. We are in a society where there is an equitable distribution. Corruption has always been there in the society. So, what are the narratives? Do you want to call, okay, India is corrupted? No. India is polluted? No. So it is our responsibility, a moral responsibility, and ethical responsibility, as a responsibility at all levels, that we talk about it. What are the measures that we can take, at least at individual levels? That is something that we should be focusing on. I've written only few of them: rich in culture, grounded in ethos, values. There are many more that has to be spoken. What are the narratives that we want that people should follow, or the people living outside should know India? And it depends on us. And as an Indian, it is our responsibility that we shape such narratives in front. I mean, we curate such narratives about India, which sets an example for other countries, because we are a developing nation. There are a lot of other countries who are following us. So if we tell them, okay, I mean, we cannot deal with poverty, we cannot deal with this and that, the other countries will lose their ground in itself. Like, we follow a leader, and if that leader fails, our worldviews fail in itself, because we believed in that person. So these are some things that we should be aware of. And then, what are the global challenges that we have? Uh, I just want to ask how much of time that is left with us.
30 minutes, sir.
30 minutes? Okay,
Yes,
cool.
sir.
So I can cover. So yeah. So these are some global challenges. In the left side, you can see these are some very common challenges that we see. There are cyber crime and cyber issues that we see. We talk about women's safety and empowerment, which is a need of the hour. There are climatic issues. There is economic crisis which is happening at current level, at the global level, and the mass layoffs is one of the consequences of that, the pandemic which we all have witnessed. And then there is geopolitical disruption occurring due to wars that we see, a lot of decisions, the sanctions that are there. But what should be our concern at the moment? Do you think that sitting over here we can solve all of this? Actually, it may or it may not be, but the question here relies on what me as an individual can do, and how much of these elements are impacting me. It should be both ways. I spoke about two processes here. I did not spoke about it. It is going outwards and going inwards. For us as an individual, our journey should always be in such a way that we also go inwards and we also go outwards. Apply this at society level, apply this at organizational level, apply this at national level. So when I talk about going inwards, if we see a problem, first go inwards. Why are we seeing that problem? What is the cause of it? Understand the cause of it. Know that, is it because of the patterns that are occurring around me? I mean, is it because of the patterns that I constantly repeat within myself? Maybe there's a negative thought loop that exists within me. Is it because of that? Or it is because there is a problem in actuality? And for that, we can use different frameworks, the macro, micro, and any different framework, or the Panchakosha, to analyze what is the problem. So going inwards is the first thing we should be doing, rather than going outwards. Then once we acknowledge that, okay, internally I can see there is a chaos within me, because Right now, there's a pressure of delivering this thing in 5 minutes, delivering this thing in such a time span. So there is chaos within me. And within that chaos, if someone asks me to make a major decision, and the major decision should be, should I, release funds for this project? And I am at a chaos at the moment. So how should I deal with it? First, we should acknowledge there is a chaos, accept there is a chaos, and only then we can act and make a decision that is going outwards, seeing the situation around us. It works same at the national level as in, first we should look at our country, like what are the problems and challenges that exist within us, what are the impacts they are having around us, and then how can we act. So when we talk about these elements, let us go inwards this time. These are the challenges that are there. These are global grand challenges we often talk about when we analyze the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. So, how is economic crisis affecting me at an individual level, or affecting my family, or affecting the society I live in? Is it creating a chaos, or is there a situation where the harmony is disrupted? Is there a situation where all of us are now left stranded? We are coming out of our homes, and what is happening now? This is happening in certain regions as well in the country. There are a lot of places which is where this is happening. Then yeah, different global pandemic health issues. So what are the challenges and what we can do? When we talk about global pandemic, one best case study is our own, what our country has done. I'm dealing with this at a national level, that when there was a global pandemic, the health crisis, we created vaccines, and we ensured that the vaccines are supplied to major regions of this planet. So we took that leadership, and it is one of the proud element that we should be proud about these things. Because at the time when people are facing an issue, what should we do, we have provided a solution as well, and not just a solution in theory but practically deployed it. So it's a very great case study for us. So how are we solving that global challenge is a great case study to analyze. Then we can talk about a challenge which I have not mentioned here, but it comes under economics, is the challenge of transferring money. There's a blockchain ecosystem that is evolving. People are talking about cryptocurrencies, but look at India, and of course it's a very different game. We developed UPI. Our UPI system is such robust and dynamic, and it is so quick in nature that me sitting here and you sitting there, I can transact the money, right, just by sharing numbers. I won't do that as of moment with any one of you, but I'm trying to give an example. When we go to US, they are still dealing with wire transfers. It takes a lot of time to do that, and in UPI, you see how fast this is happening. So it's a challenge, it's a global challenge, but we have provided a case study, and now we are trying to give that solution to the world. So even these are some methods. So there is one aspect of looking at it where there's a very global challenge, and how are we tackling it? Can we use the same model to apply at local level, which may or may not work again, but we can do that. The second approach is looking at a local challenge and picking up that case study and applying it at global narrative and global level. So these are two different approaches that we can have when we talk about problem solving. So for you, a similar model can be applied even when we are dealing problems at local level. Can we use those examples to deal with the problem at national level? Like the issue of rivers. Uh, there are a lot of issues. We are constructing dams. The water flow is getting reversed. So there is this issue which is occurring where we are constructing dams. The water flow, which used to be very natural, but now there is a reverse flow of it, and because of it, the water gets conserved or stored in that particular region. Even the sedimentation, the flow of sand and everything is not happening. So this is creating biodiversity issues in the region. This is happening in all the major rivers. So how do we address this problem should be a question among us. And this is not a micro problem. It looks micro for a region, but it is a macro problem because it is being scaled at different levels. So is there a solution to it? How can we deal with it? For that, that is where the question of civilization comes in. How do we treat water around us? How do we treat rivers? When we go back to ages ago, we treated rivers, I mean, still we do, of course. We pray to Ganga and things like that. But the definition of India, it came from rivers actually. The Sindhu Hindu. So I mean, the Hindustan concept. It emerged from the idea of rivers, the seven rivers. So we considered rivers as sacred, and not just rivers, but every element, even the non-living elements were considered as sacred. But now, in the capitalistic approach world that we live in, we see everything. I mean, everything has a value now. Even water is not available for free, and we have lost the sacredness. It is being sold at different prices. So, how are we dealing? This is a civilizational question we should be asking. That once the sacred is no more a sacred anymore, it's a material. But when we talk about material as well, what kind of value we are imposing to it? Like we don't even care, we just throw the bottle as it is. Even the food that we see, right? This is one of the issue that I wanted to address. It's a cultural issue actually, because I'm dealing in that space as well. When we bring these western models in India, like the Domino's, the McDonald's, which is good, and but when we do it, the biggest challenge that we all are facing is, we had this one thing of, the culture of food. If you come to Maharashtra, we had a specific taste of food and a specific type of food that we serve. You go to Tamil Nadu, you will see some different set of food that you see. There is Delhi, you'll see different. So there are differences, and these differences were respected, and they identified us as one Rashtra. But now, when we bring that approach of Western, which relies purely on scalability, there is no dharma behind it. Dharma, as in the grounding principle, there's no dharma behind it. The dharma is only scalability. We want to scale. We want to generate as much of revenue as possible. Profitability is that dharma. I mean, their agenda. What we are missing is the ethos of culture. And I'm not saying it is good or bad. It's a very different moral question. We are not going there, but I'm just trying to pose a problem in front of you, a challenge in front of you. What is happening? We have lost this essence of culture when we and it was valued as well. Like, I would love to visit Tamil Nadu just to have that taste of idli or dosa which they serve, or maybe what Mumbai has to serve me. I will love to have it there, but now it is totally gone. Now you visit Nagpur, you visit Delhi, you visit Chennai, you will find the same taste of pizza, you will find the same taste of burgers, everything. So you see, that is the cultural, I mean, disruption. I mean, the disruption which has occurred here, is it a positive implication or negative? That's a different story, but this is happening. We talk about technological disruption, but are we aware of the cultural disruption? Are we aware of the social disruption? We should be aware of these things. There are new lenses, new theories, new political disruption that are occurring. New theories are emerging. In technological disruptions, we talk about the AI intervention, the blockchain intervention, the question, the grand question: will AI take away my jobs? What is your opinion? Can anyone want to? I mean, does anyone want to share their opinion? Will AI take away your job or something?
Um, so, according to me, AI will not actually replace everybody's jobs, but the people working along with AI will increase.
Yeah, good. So I'll take you back to 30, 40 years ago, when calculators were made, or when computers were made. Now people would be wondering, oh, now we won't be able to work at all. But in fact, new jobs were created. So because the idea of innovation, the paradigm of innovation was, the paradigm of work was changed. And with this new intervention of AI, how we approach to the systems around us will change. Maybe the way we look at jobs are definitely going to change. Of course, our jobs will be taken over, but there will be new jobs emerging as well, and they will serve in different paradigms. When I talk about paradigm, it's like, a different system will emerge. When computers were brought in, people who were working as laborers or working in industries, they might be scared as well. How will we function when new machines were brought in? But in fact, a new paradigm was emerged. In fact, new people, technologists, a group of technologists was emerged, which was never existed. I mean, they existed, but in a different way, but they started emerging. So in a similar way, when we talk about AI or technological disruption, there will be new set of jobs which will emerge. In fact, we won't, I mean, if I ask you who is the president of this country, or so, these are very basic questions which even Google can tell you. Maybe this was important in 1990s, but ever since we have Google and the social media, we don't care about these questions. We care about what is the impact this leader might have. So our questions will also change, and that is important. Why do we need these disruptions? And evolution has always played a major role in Indian tradition. When I gave an example of Shankaracharya, he played that role. He created that disruption in the society. He recurated the idea of Vedas, and he created that idea of a new philosophical system in itself. How can we use those Vedas to create a new philosophical system? In a similar way, it's a new paradigm. It's a paradigm shift. The world that we are living in, we are living in chaos. At least at those times, there were one or two paradigm shifts, and it was easy to adapt. Now we are living in multiple paradigm shifts, like not just worldviews or lenses, but we are living in multiple different. Like I'm talking with you. This is I'm talking about cultural paradigm here, which will again occur when we talk about India, the civilizational paradigm. Then there is a technological paradigm. There is a spiritual paradigm. It could be n number of paradigms that we are living in. For that, we need to understand system theory. I'll just give you a small example of understanding system theory. Imagine we are living in a box. Consider it as a system, and consider religion as a point in that system. Different segments are different points are there. One could be religion, one could be a political group, one could be social, one could be, it could be anything, community, nature. These are all participants of that systems. Now just imagine I bring an entire new system in the society. We don't know what is the nature of that system, but what has happened is a lot of systems are intermixed with each other, and that is creating chaos. Nobody knows what is happening. Everyone relies on the information that you are getting. We are living in an information world. If I am giving you something, this is again an information, because I didn't give you methodologies or strategies. So again, you will take in some information, and that becomes part of your system. Your worldviews are again shaped by it. And we are living in such a volatile world that within an instant, your worldviews can be changed. They can be reshaped. New lenses can be introduced. So we should be aware of these things. So when we talk about leadership, the first step for all of us should be become aware. By becoming aware, by talking about awareness, I mean, what are the pointers that we discuss? The ideologies, the worldviews, the lenses, understanding the challenges within self, in the outer self, the micros and the macros, and the frameworks like Panchakosha. There could be Pancha Mahabhuta as well. These frameworks, they shape that awareness of a leader. Okay, now we are aware of all of these things. Now it's the time to act. These are the areas that you have to act. Pick up an area, start acting. And once you understand what is the cosmic order, the universe, the law and order that is there, law of universe, or the Rita or cosmic order, you'll naturally start realigning the current acts to ensure that that order is followed. And that is what the role of a leader is, to ensure that we prepare ourselves in such a way through building that awareness, that we not just jump into action mode, but we are jumping into conscious action mode. Now we are becoming conscious of who we are. And that is where a journey of a reflective journey begins. To become a leader, I'll go back again. To become a leader in India is a very complex thing, to be honest, because you cannot be monotheistic. You cannot be you cannot apply principle of being linear here, that I just want to develop India as a economic, I just want to focus on economic growth of India. So you're dealing in silos. In order to ensure there's an economic growth, you'll have to check the different areas as well. How are we doing in terms of the environmental challenges that are there? Are they posing problem to our health? So you see, you're interrelating all the three. The problems of health, are they affecting my work ethics or something? Create that interconnectedness, and this is what will determine your Indian way of thinking. So that interconnectedness has to be there. Even you're dealing problems at micro level, forget the macro. So that will shape the direction of leadership. Even you can apply these things at your organizational level. And when we talk about ecology, I will give a small address on Pancha Mahabhut, which are 5 elements. And this is an Ayurvedic approach. Ayurveda is not medicinal. Ayurveda is like an approach. It's an approach to life. And one framework from Ayurveda is Pancha Mahabhut, which is the 5 major elements. That is the earth, water, air, fire, and the ether. So each one of us, be it tree, be it the non-living things or the living things that are around you, consist of one of these elements. I mean, they consist of all the 5 elements, but one of these elements are dominant. The soil, you see, it's an earth element. You see within our body itself, the digestive element, the digestion occurs because of the fire. In a similar way, so these 5 elements are interconnected. We are ecologically connected, but how to draw that connection? By understanding Pancha Mahabhutas. We are connected, but we can't see that connection. How can we see that connection? Only when we understand the philosophy behind it. The philosophy can start by understanding the Pancha Mahabhutas that are around us. And how can you draw that connection? And what can you do to ensure that the connection still remains? If we take away the ecological system that is around us, we cannot relate. The segment of biomimicry, it comes from nature inspired design. If there is no nature, what is the inspiration that you're taking for your design? So you need to check what are the systems that you're targeting. Are those systems sustaining or not? When we talk about sustainability, uh, here, we often say, oh, I practice sustainability. Okay, I don't use plastic, I don't do this and that. But how is it helping at the macro level is something that you should also look. And the fashion industry that we talk about, they are the mass promoters of sustainability there. But the clothes that they are using, are they sustainable enough? And what is the procedure that is used to manufacture them? Is it sustainable enough? The society, the veganism as a culture which comes in, which even I appreciate, but I don't accept it in such a way, because it is again compartmentalizing. In order to ensure that we believe in veganism, there are some unethical practices happening as well. The eco-friendly practices that we are dealing, like the cars, electric vehicles. Have you noticed that thing, that in order to create lithium ion batteries, there are a lot of people sitting there in Africa, African regions. They're digging up mines, like we used to dig up mines in coal mines in India. So there are health implications as well. To ensure that there is eco-friendliness in the society, what are the costs that we are paying should be our question. And whenever we reflect upon these things, like, okay, I can see that this particular thing is eco-friendly, but what is the cost that was paid to ensure this eco-friendliness remains, should be the question that we should be asking. And because this is a major challenge, the climatic issues that we're dealing, and sustainability poses a major role here. Sustainability also relates to dharma again. Dharma, the root meaning of dharma is dharayati iti dharmam, which means that which sustains. In country level, we say that which sustains the order. Climatic, we can say that which sustains the natural order. So we should be asking these questions. And before I end up this session, these are some questions I want that all of us should reflect upon. That what is the since we are dealing, we are in this situation where India holds the presidency of G20 nations. So we don't have much time left again. But what is the grand narrative of India that we want to carry, or we want others to look upon us? And then how do you want the world to remember us? Like after November, the G20 and all the forums will be over. But can we leave a legacy or a mark such that these countries that are there around us, like we talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? So can we leave that legacy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that yes, when we talk about one family, one world, so how can we imbibe it in practice? That has to be there. Are we following the principles that are being laid down, the foundations which have been laid down from years in our country? Are we following Yama Niyama from the yoga philosophy? Are we following any kind of principles? You don't have to stick with civilizational models only. Could be anything, but ensure that these are the practice which were continuously followed and evolved, such that even the margin of error will not lead to any disruption or chaos in the society. The margin of error will be it will be ineffective. Hence the reason we follow the old traditions. Could be any religion, could be any philosophical thought, could be anything. And then what are the values that we imbibe, which will become the grounding principles for G20 nations? At least when these countries, they are coming in India, we should ensure that some of the values should be brought into practice within all of us, and so that they'll have something to take away from us. Could be rootedness, could be that centeredness that we have. when we used to do things. Maybe today that is missing because we are jumping from one narrative to different, one worldview to another, because there is no center that defines anything. But can we build it again? Like the center for this presentation was creating an Indian thought. Can we have such centers within us when we work or when we do something? Can we, identify that? And can we have our own swadharmas? Like there is a collective grand dharma that we carry. There's an order that a society should follow, but can there be a swadharma as well? As an individual, what is my responsibility towards my society? What is my responsibility to the nation or the G20 body that we have, the G20 37? I can't recall the nations, but the 19 countries and the EU nation, which is the 20, or maybe the entire humanity. Why to restrict at G20? Let us call it at humanity level. So what are the values we imbibe that will become the grounding principles for G20 nation? Can we do that? So these are the questions that uh, I want you all to reflect upon as well, and we can have this conversation carrying forward in the maybe upcoming days. So yeah, thank you. Whatever questions you have, you can feel free to interact and discuss. I hope
Uh,
this was covered on time.
yes, sir. The session was covered on time. So
Okay.
we have one question in chat box. It is by Suparna. I'll
Yeah.
read that out for you. She says that recently there was a news that Neil Mohan was appointed as the CEO of YouTube. This made me realize that the leaders of some of the biggest and the most valuable companies and organizations are of the Indian origin, like Google, Microsoft, IBM, Chanel. Do you think this is a mere coincidence or there is an ideological force driving this from behind?
I can say, see, when we talk about YouTube and all these organizations, they are driven. What is the dharma? Principal dharma is the question first we should ask. Like, are they really following the grounding principles that originates from the civilizational values? Are they following it or not? Or is it just about profitability or something? If their agenda is profitability, could be a reason. I can say that, okay, one of the worldview which I told you, which is driven by the capitalistic approach, could be the reason. We cannot say that, but of course there is an Indian force that is playing a major role at the global level, and we can see its effect at different organizations. They are the best examples. Like India is seen as a very big market, not just in market lens, I'm trying to say, but market in, I'm using the word market here because it's a very great way to represent. We all understand India is a great market to experiment. India is a great market where they can actually, shape up new ideas and new thoughts. We can see a lot of new technological interventions are being practiced with, Indian societies directly. So why this is happening? Because we are very much reciprocating to what are the new disruptions that are happening. If there is new technology that is coming up, we are all jumping into it, creating solutions and things like that. So having an Indian person taking over up a leadership role or something plays an important role here because they understand the worldviews of Indians. And when we talk about worldviews of Indian, we are collecting the major part of the globe. Like we are diverse in nature. We are not just linear kind of a person. Like I'll have a particular set of thought and that is being scaled at all the 1.4 billion people. It is not like that. Even if you go from one district to another or one region to another, you will see the set of thoughts will change, languages will change, the food that we eat will change. So this is happening. So in order to ensure that, I mean, these things are covered, the organizations are changing their approaches. And of course there could be multiple reasons. Neil Mohan in itself is capable of becoming the CEO of YouTube, so why can't we make him the CEO? So it could be one of the reasons. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question. And yeah, let me know.
Indeed, sir. Debupriya Tiwari, you have raised your hand. You can unmute and ask if you have any query.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Again, greetings, sir. I had a question, sir. As for the session, you have discussed about several aspects of human life as well as leadership and growth and development.
Right.
So I myself is now working on one of my personal startups, and
Personal.
so startup.
Okay, yeah.
So, sir, I personally feel that sometimes what happens to me is due to the hectic work schedules and then working back with the other joint ventures, I lose my temper and then I just proceed to work when I have a lot of dilemmas in my head.
Right.
So, can you please suggest me a way in which I can just stop being so dilemmatic in my situations, and then I can proceed forward with a good decision.
Right. So, in order to give an answer to it, I won't give a direct answer because, of course, you need someone. When we talk about India, there was this tradition of guru and shishya. So, a guru is the person who can give you a correct direction, a correct solution. I can only give you a direction. I would like to say that we are dealing in such a world where you will see nothing is stagnant. It keeps on evolving, it keeps on changing, it keeps on varying. And what you're trying to tell me is that you have become so aware that you can acknowledge that dilemma, that confusion around you, that situations around you, that chaos around you. And it is a good thing, I would say. So what you should be doing here is first the acceptance. Okay, this is all there. I mean, of course, if I'm a leader, let's say political leader, I can't say I won't be dealing with the society. I can't say I don't want to deal with this particular group. I will have to deal with it. You have taken up that role, so you need to accept that these are the challenges that might occur. The question is, how prepared are you within yourself? So first you have to start with yourself. Start with yourself, as in look at your schedules, look at your situations. People who are following in spiritual term, they say, okay, you meditate, you do yoga. I will say you might do it, you may not do it. That is your choice. But pick up something, pick up a ritual where you give time for yourself. There is an element in Pancha Mahabhuta which is known as space, and it is one of the most neglected element because we don't know what is space. And when we talk about relationships, when we talk about anything, the only one thing that we all look for is space. We want space. I want space, right? In our life as well, when we deal with n number of things that are around us, one thing that we miss out is the space element. And let's say I'm dealing with 10 things, we are constantly jumping from one thing to another, and we're living in the chaos. So identify how can you build up that space element within you. Just spend some time with yourself, acknowledge, cut off yourself. I mean, learn to, before you go to sleep, just learn to disassociate from all the things that you do. It will naturally help. Now we are dealing at the value or practice level, or ritual level, but trust me, it plays an important role, because when I deal with 5 to 6 things, even I get into such situation. Okay, how can I make a decision right now? Right now, there's a major thing that is happening where I might lose this much amount of money, and there's a tension that is happening. How can I make a decision at the moment? But I have to make a decision. You should know what are the checks and balances at the stake. What are the plus and minuses? Can you deal with the minuses, and can your plus be at a higher note that you can deal with the minuses? You should be doing this calculation at rational level. What we do is, where we need to apply our rational, we apply our emotions. So analyze, are you applying your emotions or rational, and deal with it in a rational way. I think this can be a good direction to start with, and then based on this direction you can look out for answers in a deeper level, where a lot of experts can also help. By experts, I mean people who are actually doing this will be the right people to give you directions over it. I mean, solutions to it. I can only help you with direction, to be honest. Yeah, I hope
Thank you
that
so
helps.
much, sir. And this was so ground to earth answer. And thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, we have three more questions in the chat box. I'll read them out. The first one is, in recent years, we have seen a rise in nationalist and populist movements around the world. How does India's leadership style relate to these trends, and how can it help in addressing some of the underlying issues that have fueled them?
Okay, wait, I can see it now. Okay. Uh, right. Uh, well, I would say again, yeah, we have seen a rise in nationalist and populist movement around the world. Right, true. So yeah, you can call it a trend again, that a lot of nationalist movements have emerged at almost in a similar time frame, just like the previous question to me that was asked based on the leadership of organization, which was purely based on India. So it might be a thought, which might, the when we talk about democracies, it is the people who determine what has to be done. So when we talk about these leaderships, so I won't say that the leadership is the nationalist leadership is analyzing this solution or something. I would say it is the people that which is working as a driving force to ensure that these things are happening. Maybe the people who are vocal may not be in that nationalistic pursuit, but the mass people that are around us. I'll give you with an example. If there's a colony and there's a new street that is being made, there will be 10 people. There are 50 people living in a society. 10 of them are very vocal. 40 of them are very silent. But the 40 of them appreciate the recent intervention of that street. 10 people may not appreciate that, but they are vocal. So the message to the world will be, okay, that street which is built is not viable. It is not technological viable, whatever. Let's not go on viability, but it is not viable. But the 40 people voted for it. The 40 people wants that to happen. So when we talk about underlying issues, how can it help in addressing some of the underlying issues that have fueled them? Well, I think this is a macro level issue. We cannot simply pick up a problem and say that, okay, this particular ideology or this particular thought process will help us or not. Again, we'll have to go back to the basics, the dharma, which I've told. Even though we are seeing a rise in nationalistic and populist movement, the question we should be asking from our side is, are they following the collective dharma that has to be followed, the order? If we don't follow it, again, these movements, everything, they are invaluable. They're not valuable. So what is that dharma? It comes from the cultural interventions that have happened. We have to go back to our basics to understand what was India, and how this world was shaped before, and what is happening now. The indigenous people who live, they're not even valued in today's society. So what should we do? So when we talk about addressing the issues, there are questions before, even before asking that question, there are a lot of underlying questions before that we should address, and then we should come to this question. So I hope I've covered that area. And should I pick up the second question?
Yes, sir. Once I'll read it out, I will put
Okay,
all
okay.
so the second question is, how is India balancing its position as a developing country with its aspirations to be a global leader?
Right. When we talk about being a global leader, so there are variables here. A developing country is one of the variable, and second is the becoming a global leader. So what are the idea? What is the idea of global leadership here? Is it a developed society? By development, again, the concept of fractured development that I've used, that we have a very great real estate with us, high top level industries, or are we technologically developed, or whatever be the definition. What is your definition of global leadership, and what is the definition which is proposed by the global standards? So are we accustomed to it? But before answering that question, I want you to understand what is the narrative of India, what is the lens at which you should look at India. That should be clear to us. The current government that we're dealing with is, there might be issues with it, but what they are trying at subtle level is to create a grand narrative of India. When we talk about becoming a global leader, at least at moral values and ethical level, we are a global leader, and entire world is relying upon what are the values we inculcate to the society. But when we talk about the materialistic pursuit and the approach that we're having when we talk about position of being development, we still have to do a lot of things. Economically, our GDP is improving. However, we are progressing at that level. The speed at which we are rising up, you can see it is remarkable, and it is being appreciated at all levels. And one great thing which is happening at geopolitics level is that we are able to defend our stand. Initially, we used to submerge with any stand that used to occur, but now we have our own stand. You can witness it in the Russia, you can model. So I think there's a positive direction towards it, and India is well balancing. There is no question on it. The question here is, how are we ready? How much are we ready to, like there's a survival, there is conscious modes. And at survival mode, we only question about living or food, clothing, shelter, the securities. At conscious level, we talk about the deeper aspects. So how much are we prepared to talk about the deeper aspect? And here, what our civilizational texts spoke about, like in Mahabharata, everything was consistent there. But how much of it do we know? We only know we only question one thing: did Mahabharata existed or not? Can we go beyond? Let us say it existed. Let us say it did not exist. But what are the elements what Mahabharata tried to tell us? It gave us a lesson, the chapter of dharma. Are we following it? What is the dharma? What is swadharma? These are the questions we should be asking. So yeah.
And the last question that we have is, how is India balancing its domestic priorities with its international commitments as a member of the G20? How is it ensuring that domestic issues are not neglected in the pursuit of global goals?
I think this is a good question, to be honest, because when we are talking about a forum like G20, most of our focus goes to which are these nations which are coming together, and all the collective problems appear in front of us. Like, what are the problems when we talk about economic crisis, things like that. But what are the local challenges that we are dealing in? Like the question says, domestic priorities. So I think our focus should be towards addressing these domestic priorities, because when we are going at G20 level, this can be a good platform to actually speak about the challenges that we have in our society. And all these problems, can there be a case study which is already being prepared in one of these nations which are part of G20 or at the global level? So this can be a good platform for us to speak about it. Is it addressed or not? Yes, it is addressed, but at what level, it depends upon how we perceive, what kind of news that we want to perceive, what kind of narratives we want to receive. There are a set of audiences who are entertainment centric, so they don't care about what is happening at global level. They'll only focus on what are the new movies that we are what are the new movies that are being released, what is happening in this dynamics. There are a set of people who may not care about these things, but who will only care about geopolitics. They will not care about what is happening within, but they might care about external. So we need such audiences to come up and to shape that perspective in front of not just government, because for every issue we rely on government. Like climatic issue, we only see what are think tanks doing, what are these governments, organizations doing, what are NGOs doing. But can we stand up as an individual, what I am doing to ensure that this climatic issue is being resolved or minimize the impact of it? So I think the question it goes to yeah the question it goes again to the individual level, that we should be asking what are the issues that are happening around us and how much of it are we raising. If not at international level, at least at my societal level, or at least at my family level. And how much what is my stand towards it? Because oftentimes what happens is, if someone is trying to tell me something, that becomes my stand and I present it in front of the world. So find out your stand and then create a dialogue over it, is what I'll tell. It says Mahabharata also said that. Yeah, true, right. Cool.
If anyone else has any questions, you
Good
can.
evening, sir.
Yeah,
Am I audible, sir?
right. Yeah. You're audible.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I have
Good
a
evening.
question that what is India doing at the international level or global level to overcome with the issues of the migrant students that are going for higher studies to the not pursuing it in India and going for other countries to select it?
To be honest, this is not my area of expertise, but I'll reflect upon this and we can have a conversation over email. I'll drop you an email, and with
Okay.
whatever the perceptions that I have or my narratives, I'll try to shape up an answer and I'll get back to you. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. It will be
Cool.
fine.
Thank you.
So we have another question. That why capital punishment is not an integral part in cases of rape, but in Mahabharata, entire war for Draupadi dishonor took place.
I think this is not the platform to discuss this question, but again, we'll have a conversation over mail because it has different. I mean, everyone can have different perspectives here. So let's have a conversation over email. I've dropped the email. What I'll do is, can anyone send me this set of questions, and I'll answer them over the email with the names as well, so I am aware of it. Or you just drop me your question on the email, so we can have a discussion over there. I mean, considering the integrity and the level of this platform, I'm trying to pick up the question. So yeah,
I would request the participants, those who have the questions, they can directly drop a mail to sir.
yeah,
It will be easy for sir also to answer.
great. Yeah,
So we have last question of the day. How do you think we can take over China's place when they have more skilled people and better education?
right. So when we talk about China, let's go back to the grounding principles. One of their grounding principle is their civilizational values. So what they have ensured, okay, they have adapted a lot of different interventions from going. They started with their religious conduct. Now they are purely different, but still few aspects of them are still there. So that, which is protecting. When we talk about US, they are bringing in people from different countries and things, and that is how their civilizational values have been shaped, which I won't call it civilizational at all. But when we talk about China, they have certain ethos, and their ethos is like we are following Atmanirbhar Bharat or Make in India. They had this ethos from a long time. So it is not like what we see in China today. It's not that they are doing it today. It was started in 1970s or 1980s itself. And an intervention of 30-40 years, and the result that we see today is a practice that they used to do in 1970s and 80s. We should not copy the same practice here. I won't say that this practice has to be followed, because we have our own way of dealing things. But one thing that we can learn is that the the new the new policies that are coming, Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, how can we make ourselves capable enough to provide such solutions? Because when we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, do we have such elements with us to produce efficient solutions for the problems that we have? We don't. And but it's not that we will not. We are developing. Our people are learning new things, and we are disrupting. I mean, we are walking in parallel to the disruption that is happening. So how can we take over China's place? Well, it won't happen overnight. It's a journey. It's a process, because there's another big war that is going between China and US. So I think it might occur. Like, they're projecting India will become a superpower, but it is expected like in the next 20-25 years. It won't happen overnight. But you, me, and all of us, we will have to play a major role here. That whatever the evolutionary processes that are happening, let us not fight over it. Let us adapt to it. Let us pick up problems that are around us. Let us solve it. And before even solving, let us become conscious of who we are. And only then we can set an example for the world. And like I've said, that India is already a Vishwaguru when we talk about ethics and morals. The only thing is, can we make it tangible? If we do it, trust me, these things will play a major role. And I can't talk about India taking over China. It will have a lot of there are a lot of discussions and dialogues have to happen there, and a lot of interventions have to be done there. But I can definitely say that yes, India can compete at that level. And definitely we are projecting our growth in such a way. So I think this is a question which I would like to answer in the mail. An overarching state answer to this question is that I won't say it is blocking our development. I think the perception of how we see religion and caste is blocking the lens. Again, we'll have to look at our lenses, how we are looking at religion. Religion is a Western concept to us. To be honest, there was no religion within us, but it was a Western intervention which happened. How are we dealing with it today? Are we in harmony with it? Have we adapted to it? And the caste system is again a Western intervention with us. Again, it is a matter of debate, and I don't think there's a platform where this should go, but we can have a discussion over it. But yeah, I won't think that this is the only reason that is blocking our development. There are a lot of other elements that are enacting as well. It also relates to our skill sets. What are the skill sets we carry at root level? So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
So, yes, sir. And before ending the session, I would like to thank you on behalf of PAQ. I would like to express my sincerest thanks for your presence in the session. Your presentation was really very engaging and thought provoking, and I'm sure that everyone present here has learned a great deal from your perspectives and your experiences. And I personally like the way you started the session with the mantra, like connecting us with our roots, and then in turn explaining the metaphor of the tree, the roots that we are connected to, and the relation between a tree and the leadership. And I commend your ability to distill the complex topics into very easily understandable concepts. It is truly impressive quality, and if we generally see, none of us would have ever thought that becoming aware is the topmost priority to become the leader.
Right.
I appreciate your time and effort you had put into preparing and delivering such an excellent presentation. We feel fortunate to have the opportunity to hear from you on this issue. And once again, thank you for your time, insights, and the passion. We are grateful for this opportunity, and we hope to have the chance to work with you again in the future. Thank you, sir.
Definitely. Thanks to Amicus Curie as well to give me this opportunity. And yeah, I'm looking forward to any dialogues or conversation that you guys have. I hope you have my email. You can feel free to reach out. You can connect me over LinkedIn as well. So yeah, thank you so much. I hope I did not, bore the concept of boredom. I did not bore you here, and it was engaging as you're trying to say. So yeah.
No, sir, it was not at all boring. It was very, very thought provoking. The questions that you had put up. Thank
So
you, sir.
before we end, because we started it with invocation, let's end it with invocation as well. I did not thought I will end it with invocation, but is it okay if we do it? So there is one.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So we do it with Purnamada. It means, if the completeness, right? So I'll just explain you what is the ending mantra that I'm going to chant. When we end something, let us have this sense of fulfillment. As leaders, the sense of fulfillment is important. Otherwise, the lack of fulfillment will, keep on creating compulsive desires. So when we talk about completeness, let us complete this with a mantra which also relates to completeness as well. So you can close your eyes and I'll recite it. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevat Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for
Thank
being
you
a great.
everyone for joining.
Yeah.
The session is over. The participants are requested to now devote the platform. Thank you for joining once again.